this kind of behavior and treatment happened for a long time, to a point where if you had done something wrong, so let's say maybe she asked for a cup of coffee or anything, and maybe you didn't put sugar, or you put too much sugar, or such tiny mistakes, she would hit you with any object that's
Sure.
within her reach, whether it's an iron, or it's a kettle, or it's a brake, um, and things even go to a point where now, if she wants to beat you up, she would lock the room, push you in, or shove you into a small corner where she would like literally hit you with her fists and kicks.
Welcome to the Safe Space Chats podcast with Madam Speaker. Hi, my name is Perseverance Maremeni, also known as Madam Speaker, also known as the CEO of Self Love. On this podcast, we are creating a safe space for ourselves through heart-to-heart conversations, encouraging others to do the same. Just because we don't believe in the same things, we don't like the same things, we're not interested in the same things, it does not mean that we cannot coexist. So this is a safe space for you to exist even when you are different and unique.
Welcome to the Safe Space Chats podcast with Madam Speaker. My name is Perseverance Maremeni, also known as Madam Speaker, also known as the CEO of Self Love. As you know, on the Safe Space Chats podcast, we are never alone, all right? There's always somebody next to me. And we have a brother of mine next to me, and I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. Hi, my brother.
Hi, Madam Speaker.
How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Please introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Tiyiselani Mukari. Young, vibrant, and bold. I was born in a small village called Mpambo, Kamalamulel.
Okay.
But I also grew up under another small village in Nwadzeku,
Okay.
in Guyana. So that's my maternal family side.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm also a social worker by profession. I have more than 10 years of experience in the field. There's a lot of things that I do. I'm also big on the personal development and emotional well-being of young men and boys.
That's you know what? You're the second person who is coming here who's a man who is prioritizing the well-being, the mental well-being of men, and that is very important. And I was saying that the reason why that is so important is because it will be so pointless for us to be doing the work as women, for women to go back home to the same men who are broken. So you are very important to our community. Thank you so much for the good work that you're doing.
Thanks. Yeah. It's
So
a lot, but yeah,
it's a lot,
thanks.
ne?
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it's overwhelming, but it's worth it at the end of the day, right?
it is.
So how was it like growing up in the villages?
Back in the days, it wasn't so hectic. I think because I could relate to how things were with everyone else, and as a child, there was no competition. I mean, we all went to the same schools, would wear like more of the same clothes, especially with my peers. Yeah, but I think for me, life took a different turn because I think at the age of 7, I moved to the township,
Okay.
which was Malamlele then, because I was still staying at Mpambo. But the social class in the townships obviously is different.
Yeah.
So that's when you start to become more awakened of, oh, this is how things work. There's better schools, there's better roads and clinics and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't so hectic.
It wasn't so bad.
No.
So what inspired the move from the villages to Kasi?
Nothing positive, unfortunately, because how it happened is that at the age of 7, my parents separated.
Okay.
So I'm the firstborn in the family, and I have 2 younger sisters.
Okay.
So when I was 7 years old, my parents separated. So my father remarried.
Okay.
So that's how the transition now to move from the village to the township happened.
So when your parents separated, did you stay with your mom or?
So what happened is that in the house, it was myself, my mom, my paternal grandmother,
Okay.
and my 2 younger sisters, and my dad. But my dad was not someone who would always be in the house because of work. He would just periodically come back. So when the separation happened, we were living together in my grandmother's side, my father's side. So when the separation happened, it meant that my mom had to go back to her home,
Okay.
which is my maternal side. So when we moved to the township, we moved all 3 of us, myself and my 2 younger sisters, and my dad and his wife to the township.
Okay, so your mom.
Had to go back to her home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so when your dad married another wife, the wife found you guys in that home, and then you
Yes.
moved together with your dad and the stepmom.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Sure.
And that was the most confusing part in my life, because how it happened is that I remember my grandmother sort of called me because, well, I was her eldest grandson, and she sort of explained to me that there's a new woman in the house. Well, I could see her, but I didn't understand who she was and why she was there, because it looked like she was there to stay. You understand? But eventually, my grandmother sat me down and explained to me that this is your mother.
Okay.
You know, in a sense that I need to call her mom, because that's how we respect in the African culture. But it didn't interpret it in that sense in my head to say, okay, this is my dad's new wife, you know, until when we moved into the township and I could see that, oh, my mom is not coming back, and no one said anything about my mom leaving or not being with us, you know. So I had to sort of grasp that on my own to say, oh, this is my new mother, but where's my mom? And that time I didn't even have a phone. I was still young. My dad was not frequently home, so I could not even ask him, where's my mom? Why is she not coming? You know, yeah, that kind of thing. So that's how it happened.
Sure. And until today, have you ever been in a position where you even asked your mom or had conversations about these things?
I have. So what happened is that when we moved to the township, my dad, I think, had plans to look for a new stand where he could build a house of his own, so as to start a new family. But they didn't find a stand at the time, so we had to move into one of those boarding rooms. And I think 3-4 months down the line, our stepmother started to show her true colors.
Okay.
And how now the family setup changed is because she had other 3 kids of her own
That she came with.
right? And the eldest one was a female. She was older than me, and obviously I had to refer to her as my sister, which was also difficult for me because remember, where I come from, I'm the firstborn, and I'm a boy, and my understanding is that I need to protect my sisters. You know, I sort of had that domination as a young man in the house to say they are my responsibility. So now when I was introduced to her and her 2 other siblings, the second born was, I think, 2 years younger than me, and then the last born was almost the same age as my youngest sister. So there was now 6 of us in the house, right? But like I was saying, 3 months, 4 months down the line, my stepmom started to show her true colors. Like she started treating us in a sense that you could feel that these are her kids and these are not her kids, you know. So we were treated differently. The people who were mostly subjected to the hardships in the households was myself and my sister who comes after me.
Okay.
You know, so would sometimes be made to like do the most difficult house chores in the house, like cleaning up toilets, making sure that the house is always shining, the floor. You know, like we were treated like small domestic workers. You know, for a long time actually, because that lasted for about 3 years.
Sure.
And things got worse to a sense that she started now beating us up, you know.
And where's your dad in all of this?
My dad is at work. So my dad was employed in the military at the time. So it was not easy for him to, you know, to be as frequent in the house as he would love to. And how she was so good in doing all of this thing is that whenever my dad was home, we would be the happiest family ever. You know, she would create this environment where even if we are sitting around the table having dinner, we all need to pretend as if things are fine, especially myself and my other sisters, you know, because we knew that as soon as we gave signs that when he's not around, we are going through the worst, we're going to pay for it as soon as he's gone, you know. So this kind of behavior and treatment happened for a long time, to a point where if you had done something wrong So let's say maybe she asked for a cup of coffee or anything, and maybe you didn't put sugar, or you put too much sugar, or such tiny mistakes. She would hit you with any object that's within her reach, whether it's an iron or it's a kettle or it's a brick, and things even go to a point where now if she wants to beat you up, she would lock the room, push you in, or shove you into a small corner where she would like literally hit you with her fists and kicks, and sort of like she wanted us dead in a sense, you understand? And I think the most painful part for me at the time was that whenever my dad would come back home, he would not be able to see that his kids are not fine.
Sure.
And that's because he didn't invest in spending time with us and connecting with us, even on an emotional level. I mean, as a parent, you should be able to see if your kids are not happy or if they are not feeling well. You should read, and if you can't read, somehow you should be able to feel it. If you have connected to that level with them. Yeah.
Sure, that is hectic. And during that time, you can't even speak to your mom or your grandmother. You can't share with anybody about what you're going through.
No, could not. Because for as long as we lived in the township, I didn't have access to my mom, didn't have access to my grandmother. So it was like we were in a prison where we couldn't escape. Until I think it was on the 16th of August 2001, where my younger sister was so badly beaten up that she sustained an injury here in the middle of her skull. It was so bad. She couldn't even go to school. She couldn't walk properly. She was severely emotionally and physically damaged. She had bruises all over her body. And my younger sister would even run away from home.
Sure.
Because of the fear. Sometimes she would be given a task to say, when I come back, I want to find this house clean. You must have washed the dishes. You must have cooked and done all of these things. And she would panic because of those things, knowing that I've been given so much on my plate and I haven't even done half. And she would run away from home, or sometimes she gets beaten up and then she manages to escape and we would not know where to find her. Until at school one day when I got a call from the principal's office. And I was amazed. I'm like, what? It was the first time I'm being called. I didn't understand what was happening. And then when I walked into that room, I saw faces of people that I had never seen in my life before. And funny enough, I also saw my mom for the first time after we were, we had separated from her. And I broke down into tears, because in that state, I had so many questions that were running over my head to say, what is happening? Do you have any idea how much trouble you've left us in? And did it have to take this incident for you to show up? And in the midst of that conversation, there were also two social workers, people that I'm saying I didn't know. I was seeing them for the first time. And when the principal finally calmed me down, they explained to me that the other two people in the room were social workers. And they were here to take us away from our stepmother.
Sure.
Which was, I don't know, I just continued to cry because it's something that I've been praying for a long time. And how it happened, I do not know. I don't know who reported that we are being abused and this is how bad our situation was. But somehow, miraculously, that's how it happened.
Sure.
And from that day, I remember that day we actually were taken back to the house to pack our stuff, same time. And the social workers escorted us now back into our mother's care, in Guyana. So that was another turning point in my life. But I was so heartbroken. I had so many questions. Hated my mother.
Yeah.
Number one, for the fact that she had left us without knowing what kind of environment we would be exposed to,
Sure.
you know. And now I started hating women in general because remember, I've never been exposed to any motherly love and shown love by a woman. My mom left me. I don't
The
know
other
why.
one is abusing you.
Other one is abusing me. So I'm like, what's wrong with women?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Only later, and we'll speak about this, that I got to understand what was happening, why it was happening, and why it had to happen.
Sure. Yeah, no, you went through a lot, most as a child. Did you ever have to sit with your mom and have conversations about her leaving and not looking back and just confronting her about that? And your dad also, did he ever get to find out that you guys were being abused?
So with my mom, we did, right? But how it happened is that it was not like a once-off sitting where we would sit down and discuss everything and that's it. Because remember, for me personally, I've been subjected to this thing for a long time.
Yeah.
There's no way that it was just gonna take one occasion and all of a sudden I'm okay. So it had to take a whole lot of meetups and mending the relationships and spending time together, going to the park together, and sometimes cooking together. To ease, also to make up for the time that she was not there, because also I was sort of disconnected to her. You understand? So it took a lot, and we did that, and it was quite reassuring, because what my mom said, and I still see this even today. My mom was not employed at the time. There's no way that if she had taken us with her when she separated with my dad, she would have been able to cater for our educational needs, most importantly, right? So, and my dad was well off. So, as much as he didn't know that we were being abused and all of that, he made sure that we had school uniform, there was food in the house, even if we were not getting some sometimes. But him as a dad played his role in making sure that he provides and making sure that we go to school. Even when I was in varsity, he was supportive.
Yeah.
Only later in life, and this is just about last year in October, that I actually sat down with him after so many years of not seeing him and not even talking to him, because I also had bottled so much anger against him when the social workers took us.
To say he didn't do anything about it.
You understand? I mean, we are living under your roof and a whole lot of things are happening to your kids, but you can't even pick one slight thing that my kids are going through this.
Yeah.
As much as we ourselves could not show, because we knew that the worst would come if we were to do that. But as a parent, isn't it your role, to connect with your kids and find out how they're doing? I mean, he would not even check on how things are at school, how we are feeling. These conversations are important, with kids, Yeah. So we did, but only later in life. And I remember one incident while we were still in the township where my mom actually I just saw two people walking in, because I was playing in the field outside, and I could tell, man, that this face looks familiar when I looked at those people. So that was my mom and my uncle, and apparently they've been in the township trying to look for us, asking around until they finally located the house. So, but that event didn't end so well, because when we saw her, myself and my other sisters, as much as they were still young, like we stood there in shock, and I remember my mom called my name. She was like, T, and I was like, who is this? But I could see it's her. And I just broke down in tears. And fortunately or unfortunately, my dad was at home that time, right? So that whole event was not treated well, because my dad lashed out.
Sure.
He was like, why are you coming to call out for the kids while standing at the gate? Why are you not walking in? And then, But my mom didn't buy that because also she was coming to claim her kids back.
Yeah.
Because it seemed as though where she was, people were feeding her with information to say, this is what your kids are being subjected to, you know. So that whole event that they didn't end so well, they ended up exchanging, painful words in front of us. We just broke down into tears, man. We didn't know what to do. My dad called us to go in the house. We just went into the house and continued crying, you know. But deep inside, I wanted my mom to leave with me that day or take us with her,
Yeah.
you know. But my dad wouldn't let that also because of their own differences, you know.
And also because he failed to see what the suffering that you're enduring in the hands of your stepmother.
Yeah, but I think that day also came to me as a reminder, from God, whether directly or indirectly, to say, I have not forgotten you.
Sure.
And what reinstilled my hope was that the fact that she knew where we stay, at least one day she will definitely come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So I just continued to stay in prayer. And the funny thing is that my stepmother would normally force us to go to church on Sundays, but not knowing that even before coming to the township, back at home where I come from, we used to go to church very now and then.
Yeah.
It was just like a small walking distance. So to her, it was like I'm forcing these kids to go to church, whether they like it or not. But I used that to my advantage because I needed that. You understand? So I used that to confide in God and to use that small moment where I would be at church to talk to Him, to say, God, you can see what I'm going through. And if I'm not rescued from this situation, I might end up killing myself or doing something stupid. Can you please rescue me?
Sure.
Or rescue us? So I could see the hints that no, this thing is possible. One day we will be out of here. I just don't know how, you know. So when that call from the social workers came in, it served as a reassurance to say, no, okay, now it's happening.
You're finally leaving Egypt.
Yes, it really felt like leaving Egypt, yeah.
Sure. And right now, as we speak, your stepmom, when was that the last time you heard from her?
Yeah, have no idea where she is. Never had or seen her, even in the socials, even her kids. I've written about this in the book, and the one thing that many people who have read the book that I've written are asking is, where is your stepmom now? And if you were to meet her now, what would you say to her? You know, and the other thing that they ask is, have I forgiven her?
Yeah, because I wanted to ask that as well.
You know, so I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I have forgiven her, right?
Sure.
And the reason why I haven't, it's because I haven't found closure.
Sure.
You understand? In the space where I am now, and with the work that I do, I want to understand why she was doing the things she was doing.
Yeah.
You know, and what I mostly want to understand is, does she have an idea as to what kind of damage she was causing in our lives at the time and even now? Remember, and I'm saying even now because as a young man, I need to recover from all of that brokenness. You understand? And like, where does that put me? Where does that put my future? And the fact that one day I also will become a dad and a husband and continue to be a brother or even an uncle. What kind of values and what kind of life am I going to lead into these people that I'm going to be leading?
Yeah.
You know, because it means now I need to recover from whatever that has happened. And for me to recover, sometimes it means that I may need to revisit those moments so that I can find healing. You understand? So yeah, I'm not angry, but I really would love to hear from her as to why.
So do you feel like what you would need, ideally, for you to get the closure that you want, would be a confrontation with your stepmother?
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't have to be violent.
Yeah.
We could have a warm conversation, just so I understand why. There could be reasons, but I would really love to understand why is that she would like be so harsh on how she treated us versus how she treated her own kids in
Yeah.
our presence.
Yeah.
Because sometimes physical punishment and abuse is not painful,
Yeah.
but when it is done in front of other people, it becomes too severe. Because you are asking yourself, what makes me deserve this? And why is that these people that are at the same level as me or are also kids are not being subjected to the same thing?
Yeah.
Those different treatments.
As you are asking this question, there's something that is coming in my heart, right? And I'm thinking there are so many people who are wronged, right? And the people who did them wrong pass away without saying they're sorry, without having the confrontation, without any of that. And with your line of work, obviously, I do believe that you deal with different people who have been through so many different things, and some of the people who have put them through whatever they put them through are late, right? Meaning that even if they want an apology or they want that closure, they have to find other means to find closure. So I'm going to throw this right back at you to say, let's, God forbid, let's say this woman wakes up dead tomorrow. Doesn't mean that you'll never get your closure.
That's difficult, eh? That's difficult, but remember, people who have been wronged seek closure in different ways
Sure.
and through different channels.
Yeah.
Some don't even want to see the person that has wronged them. Some do wish to confront violently, so and
Seek
seek
revenge.
revenge.
Yeah.
You see, so there's many different angles. But for me, I'm not about that. I just want to understand. So, if it happens that, like you said, God forbid, that she's late, or she passes without me having that opportunity, it's okay. I will accept that. But all I'm saying is, it would put me at a better place and at ease and at peace if at least that could happen.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting.
Yeah. I get you.
Yes, and I'm in a much more better place and space now.
Yeah.
But I still have a void because
Yeah.
I have questions that are not answered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't answer those questions on my own.
The reason why I'm saying this is because I would really want to challenge you to broaden your options when it comes to you getting your closure. Maybe different options, just in case. Just have a backup. Because like you said, you're a young man. One day you're gonna get married. One day you're gonna be a father. And if that day comes before you speak to this woman, or if that day comes having not spoken to her and gotten the ideal closure that you want, then you need to have put some things or some measures in place to make sure that at least you enter the closure from another door. So that's just me. Maybe you can think about that to say, okay, what other things can I do? Just challenge yourself with that to say, okay, what other things can I do? What else, if this was to fail? Challenge yourself on that to say, what else can I do to get the closure that I feel like I deserve, or the closure that I need for myself and not for anybody else, And I feel like you are well within your rights to deserve the closure to get the closure that you deserve. The thing with me is, if I know that I'm probably not going to get my closure with you, because remember, when somebody victimizes you and they're not apologetic about it, it can actually make things even worse. Even a confrontation can make things even worse. So I have a tendency, and this is so terrible, my goodness. I don't know if this is biblical or not. I kill people in my heart. Yeah, if I feel like you will never give me the closure that I need, right? I will treat you as somebody who did me wrong, but who is dead.
Doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, and remember that part. The tricky part about it is that I'm not killing you completely to a point where even when I see you, I won't greet you. Remember, Tiyiselani, we are people who, we're an image of God, right? And we love. And us being able to love is not a thing that we apply for. We are born like that. We are born to love. But also at the same time, in most cases, for people to hurt us, we have to open that door and let them in. So what I mean when I say I would kill people so that they don't have that access to hurt me anymore, is so that I know that if you're dead, you will never apologize. I'll never be hopeful that one day I'll have this thing that I want.
There's no expectation.
There's no expectation. So when I see you, I just see a typical image of God. And with everything that you've done, but to me, because what you did to me, I've killed it. Then I literally have to deal with licking my wounds based on this person who did me wrong is dead. Now I need to heal from that point. Even when I meet them, I'm seeing a total stranger.
But that's interesting. It's profound. How did you get there? And I'm not trying to turn this into,
no, it's
but
okay.
I think I'm finding it as a tool that could, help not just me, but many other people out there, because that's one thing that a lot of us battle through. To create a room where you're like, okay, I'll just treat you as someone that I used to know. Not bitter.
I think I had to do a lot of acknowledging. I acknowledge the fact that I don't own you as Tiyiselani. And because I don't own you, I cannot dictate to you how you want to do this life thing. And because I cannot dictate to you, that means I have to coexist with you even when I don't agree with you and the way you do things.
Sure.
You get what I mean? So in that way, we can disagree. You can hurt me. And I can just say, it's a mosquito. Nobody likes a mosquito.
Of course.
Right? But God decided that there should be mosquitoes. And we have to be hitting mosquitoes and whatever. We don't like them, but we have to coexist with them because God decided that there should be mosquitoes. So whatever it is that was happening in somebody's head, you cannot get in there and understand what was going on in their heads. Because sometimes people don't even know why they did the things they did. I was having a conversation with a sister and I was saying to her, sometimes just because you are available for a split second, you can be used to be a pharaoh of my lifetime so that I can be able to be the person that I have to be. So it could be that, it could have been anybody who had to put you through whatever that you went through, just so that you can be the Tiyiselani that you are today. It might not have been your stepmother. It could have been your father. It could have been your own biological mother. But the purpose had to be fulfilled. And I think for me, I focus on the purpose that has to be fulfilled more than who was the culprit behind pushing me to the purpose.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
So if you look at your stepmother as somebody who was just a pawn, a chess thingy to get you to where you want to go, then you will see her as somebody who is just coexisting with her own mind that you can control, who had to do her part. Somebody had to do it for you to be here today.
True. Wow.
That's how I see it. So that's why I'm saying that maybe you might want to broaden your options in terms of what can you do, the routes you can take in terms of you just getting your healing.
I think it's landing very well with me the way you're putting it, because I'm also very firm in believing that the life that I'm leading now, it's a God-guided life, and that's why I said to you, I'm not angry at her, I'm not even fighting, but just to broaden my understanding and to gain a sense of easiness, I would really like to have a conversation with her, but that's quite an interesting angle that you're bringing this to me. I think, I appreciate it, honestly.
I hope it's going to help people at home as well who are dealing with whatever, to say, okay, the deed had to happen. It's the same as, I know it's cheesy when we talk about Christ, who on the cross of Calvary was saying, Lord, this cup, if it was up to me, I was going to say, take this cup away from me. But because it is your will and not mine, I have to drink from this cup. Meaning that it could have been anything, it could have been anybody. But for whatever it is that is happening in your life, for it to happen the way it did, you had to take the cup. So it doesn't matter who you had to take the cup from.
Sure.
So you should not personalize it. You understand? It's a stepmother. Let's take that individual away and say it's person A. Person A put me through whatever, but because of what happened to me via person A, this is where I am now.
Sure, that's powerful. I can completely relate and attest to that, because I tell you how I got into social work. It was not because I always wanted to be a social worker.
Yeah.
It's because of those social workers.
Sure.
And can we say now that had it not been for that situation that I was subjected to, how would I have known about the work that social workers do? How would I have gotten the inspiration to be a social worker myself?
You get what I mean? How would you
Yes.
be able to do what you're doing now? So somebody had to carry the assignment.
The courier.
Somebody had to be the cup that you had to take. So it's not even about that specific stepmother. It could have been an uncle or anybody else.
That's powerful. I'm taking that with me.
I'm glad. So to answer your question, that's how I usually approach things when people have hurt me, and I detach the individual from the activity or the incident, so that I can understand that yes, it is painful. Yes, it hurt me, but for me to get to where I am now, somebody had to do it. Yeah.
But what happens to people who are like very intentional with their wrong deeds, and they even say to you, "Ngizokubonisa or ntakukombisa."
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And I understand that it could still be, still God's assignment, but sometimes it gets to a point where it feels like this person is being very intentional and being personal about what they are doing, and they have intentions to cause me harm. How do we separate that from knowing that, okay, this is godly now? It's not just.
Do you mean then or do you mean now?
I mean
Then.
now.
Now. Okay, because I thought you wanted to talk about the then, to say when, maybe if then she was saying, I'll show you. It's the same as, ish guys, I'm too much of a mzalwan.
No, it's fine. It's let's be mzalana about it.
No, let's be Christian about it. It's the same as Jesus had disciples. One had to betray him. And the one that had to betray him didn't even know why he had to do it, but he knew that he had to do it. So sometimes when people say ntakukombisa, it's because of whatever it is that is in their heart. And I'm very big on distancing myself from people. I'm not, I don't have attachment issues anymore. I can love you as a Christian, as a child of God, but I can tell you now that if you're going to tamper with my spirit, with my well-being, then I'm going to love you from a distance. Trust me, I'm going to love you so much that when something is not going well with you, I will cry, but from a distance. Because I'm a human being. You get what I mean? So, when somebody says, "Itakukombisa," they will show you, they're going to show you what they're made of. It is them versus you. It is their God versus your God. And for me, personally, I never really shake when people say they want to show me, because, well, you can try. I mean, everybody has been given a fair shot at trying. But because me now, I know who I am and what I'm doing, I know that you trying, you saying you will show me. Do what you have to do and I'll do what I have to do. Simple. Yeah.
So would you say, okay, and I'm going to hand over to you because now I feel like I'm the one asking you
That's fine. We can
questions.
do an engagement this
Maybe
time.
last one, because, so would you say that we are living in more of like a simulation life where the life that we are leading was scripted before us? Because at the same time, my understanding is that God has given us the power to choose, isn't it? The power to make choices.
Yes.
But with what you are bringing, would you say that sometimes when things are meant to happen in a way that God wants them to be, whether we like it or not, they will happen or unfold in that way?
My belief is that there's a reason why God plants visions and dreams in our hands. It's because they're supposed to be carried out a certain way. It's just that the road or the route for us to get to where we're going, it's not going to be as simple or as easy as we think it's going to be. Just because it's a God thing, it doesn't mean that it has to be an easy thing. Because then if it's an easy thing, simply because it's a God thing, there's no testimony to it. I do women's conferences every year. Kanye was saying to me, can we not have a breakdown of a car this year? Because every year towards the conference, there's a breakdown of a car. And I always say to her, I have spiritually prepared myself for a warfare. Because in as much as this is a God thing, and I know that the finish line, definitely we're getting there. But one thing I know for sure is that it's not going to be easy for us to get there. So there's going to be, you will be sitting there asking yourself, God, am I a second class citizen? I mean, I'm doing your thing. Is it not you that said I must do it?
Exactly.
But when we stand in front of people and now see how hard we fought, you will never forget those incidences. Because things which come easy, things which are simple, I don't think would have any memories of anything that happened.
Definitely.
But all these challenges, they teach us. And also for me personally, this is my personal belief. I believe that the challenges that happen around us on our way to fulfill that which God has planted in us is for us so that we can always give the glory back to God. Because it's easy, it's quick for us to depend on our own understanding and give ourselves the glory and say, I, as Perseverance Maremeni, I have done this. But with all the challenges that we face along the way, then I will know that it is not on my own accord that I was able to accomplish what I did. I should be able to stand there and say, this is definitely God.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can completely relate. Sure. Otherwise, we wouldn't have, testimonies to glorify. We wouldn't even have reasons to praise God. I mean,
if we're chilled, everything is working out. Why are we even...
And we would think we can do it on our own.
Yeah, And then at the end of the day, we still glorify ourselves. There's a woman that I love in the book of Judges. Her name is Deborah. I forgot the guy who was supposed to go to war. She was a judge, and when the guy said to Deborah, please come with me, because she was a judge then, right? She was a judge and a prophet. Come with me to war. Deborah said, if I come with you, the glory is gonna come to me. So if you go alone, when you come back, because God has already given you victory, when you come back from war, it would be, this man has become victorious over our enemy. But if I come with you, I'm going to take the glory for the victory. Because victory is definitely assured.
Wow.
I was once a Mzalwane, guys, and don't judge me. I was once a Mzalwane. But okay, I can see that, you know what, I'm loving this conversation, by the way. And and I feel like we have not gotten to the part that I want us to get to, which is what inspired you to do the work that you do. So I just wanted to take it a little bit back to life after you moved back with your mother to you being here today.
So we moved in 2001. But from there, obviously, I had to now reshape my focus into, school and books, because now I had a family that was very supportive. I must say my maternal family was very supportive. They treated me as if like I'm their child, although they didn't have the economical means, but they did all there was to do to make sure that I had a better life and I was free. If there's one thing that they wanted to be sure of, is that I don't ever again feel as though I'm still in prison, or living under the same environment. So fast forward, what I did was to complete my studies Andonda Tiyiselani at Domazi, and then I successfully completed my matric and then went to UJ. When I got to UJ, I told them I want to be a social worker. Although I was clueless about what other courses were there, but I knew that I needed to do what those social workers did.
Want to be that superhero that came to rescue you?
Yes, I also want to be a superhero to other young kids who may be going through what I'm going through as well. Yeah. So I enrolled at UJ, which was not so much of a beautiful experience, like you say. First year, I failed my my major subject, social work, in first year. But fortunately, I failed, but I was still able to qualify for a supplementary exam. But I was so crushed when I failed, because over the years from my high school life, I had never failed. And I'm like, but God, if you really want me to do social work, why would you let me fail? So yeah, fortunately, I wrote the supplementary exam. I passed, graduated in 2011, and yeah, started a job as a social worker in an organization called Central Gauteng Mental Health Society. Yeah, they provide mental health services to vulnerable communities. Yeah, so I worked there for 9 months, and then after 9 months, during my course of study at UG, I was funded by the Department of Social Development. I was under their scholarship. So 9 months down the line, after working for mental health, they called to say, because the promise was that they were going to place us within the department. So they called to say, we have a job placement for you. Are you up for it, or you're already working and happy? I said, nope, I'm definitely up for it because the salary was better, obviously. So I took that role as a social worker. I worked for the Department of Social Development for 5 years. And I think this is where like my career as a social worker started to take shape, and I could be able to sort of have a feel of what kind of field in social work do I want to venture into. Because within the department, I was working with young boys who were sentenced for different sentences.
Okay.
So I was responsible for monitoring their sentences to make sure that they comply. If there's programs, they complete and attend those programs, and then I would do the reports and then submit to court and mitigate as to whether they should be released on supervision and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is work that I did very well and enjoyed until I was also moved into now being a probation officer. So I was responsible for criminal court cases.
Okay.
I did a lot of work for commercial specialized court, the high courts in all over Johannesburg. And my career started to develop and grow in the field of probation, and I've done visits in Johannesburg prison. I've done the juveniles that are all over around, just to have a look and a feel of what does it feel like for young men to be incarcerated, and listen to some of their stories, because there's a whole lot of them that are locked in up for different reasons. But part of what I loved about my work was that I was getting more exposed into understanding the different challenges that young men go through,
Yeah.
as compared to what I have
Yeah.
been subjected to. And I actually realized it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how things unfolded after I moved to living with my mom.
Earlier on, you said that you have a book.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to know what is the book about, and I'm very much interested.
Sometimes I forget that I'm an author, because when I introduce myself, I forget to mention that. So that's
I'd never forget.
Is it?
My time is coming. I'll be an author soon. I'll make sure number one.
I'm also waiting for your book.
Okay.
I've been listening to you when you say your
I'm
book
right.
is
The book is coming. The book is coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually started writing my book in 2017. It's called The Hidden Scars of a Boy Child,
Okay.
which is the story of my life. The reason why it took so long to finish was that as I was writing, sometimes I would find myself breaking down into tears. And I thought, okay, let me take a breather, and a breather would mean maybe, breaking for like 3 months or 6 months, So this is the book,
Okay.
The Hidden Scars of a Boy Child. Hasn't been easy to write it, and I remember when I sent it to the editors, the people who were working on the project, they would send it back to me, and say, can you paint a picture for us to say, when you say that your stepmom was being abusive, on this day, what was happening?
Sure. And you have to relive the moments now.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, you guys, you are testing me, honestly, So those are some of the reasons why it took long to finish. But what it meant, like you are saying, it meant that I needed to relive those moments, and actually experience the feelings
Yeah.
and the emotions, But at the time, I could not write those things down. What I did was to record voice notes and say, guys, this is the best that I can do for you. You will see how you fit it into the book.
Yeah.
So yeah, but what I've done also was to document the events or the series from far as back as 1997 when the separation happened to late last year October. Because what happened is that my dad and I were not in good talks, I remember, because of this whole thing that had happened. And there's a gentleman that I had met during the course of my varsity days, whom I've been trying to seek mentorship and guidance from. And I reached out to him to say, look, this is the situation I'm faced with my dad. I want a relationship with him. But he's not reaching out to me. What can I do? And this man says to me, your dad is more like he was the courier of you as a seed on earth, right? God used him to bring you on earth. And if you do not have a solid relationship with him, or there's there's grudges held against each other, chances are things might not go well for you in life. I don't know how true that is, but I believed it. And I said, how so? And he started unpacking for me his own story of how he mended things with his own father. And he gave me an assignment. He's like, go and fix things with your dad.
Sure.
So I didn't take that very lightly. I promised him that I was going to do that. So I started reaching out to my father's brothers to say, because I didn't even have his contact, to say, can you please connect me with my dad? I need to speak to him. So they did that. We prepared to have a physical meeting back at home. So I had to travel specifically for that meeting to happen. I went and we sat down. And funny enough, my dad, when I told him what was happening when we were staying with him and why I decided to reach out to him, funny enough, he said that he was also longing for the same thing. You understand? And he also voiced that he didn't know that all of those things were happening to us because of how well, they were swept under the carpet. He didn't know. And obviously because he didn't spend so much time in the house. But how that conversation happened, it was as though we both wanted the same things, but we didn't know how. And for me, I understood as a young man, because my observation with parents is that most parents find it difficult to say sorry to their kids. Even when it's them who are wrong. They will try and show you by, how they treat you and what they say, but to verbalize it and show it, it's difficult. But I think that moment for me and my dad was very special. And ever since that day, we've kept tabs. We talk about the plans that he has, the plans that we can both create together as a father and son. And we talked. Just yesterday, he gave me a call to say he's around Pretoria because he works in Limpopo. He was saying, I'm around Pretoria, but I'm not sure where I'm going to be working because I just got here. So we now have that kind of communication, and we chat about almost everything, and that's all that I was looking for. Nothing hectic. I didn't want to know for us to go back and talk about. I just wanted a relationship, simple. So we are good now. It's as beautiful as it is with my mom, as much as they are no longer together.
Oh, I love happy endings. And I'm really glad that, because I think an episode that aired a couple of weeks ago on our channel, we had somebody who said that they could not reach out to the father because they felt like the father should be the one that reaches out to them because they're the child. But that also didn't help much because, the anger and the hurt and everything is still bottled inside. And I feel like you being able to reach out, you were doing it for yourself.
100%.
You were doing it for yourself, and it worked out for you. And I'm glad it did. And I know that people's situations differ. And we can't say that just because it worked for you, it can work for the next person. Because we have so many people who only reach out when things are not going well for themselves. We watch that show on SAPC, is it Kumbule Kaya, Utatako, whatever, where people only reach out because they really want help or they reach out because things are not going well. But when you reach out because you just want that relationship and you get that, that is one amazing special case. And I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. I wouldn't say everybody else should do it the way you did it, but I'm glad that it worked out for you. So now with the work that you're doing, in closing, what do you desire to see happening with this amazing work that you're doing?
So first of all, I would really like to see us as a society creating enabling spaces, or I can call them safe spaces for men to find a room that is, opening and welcoming for them to speak up about whatever issues that are, eating them inside. And I'm saying this because a whole lot of programs that are designed for women and girls, these programs have safe spaces, like physical safe spaces. Some have containers, some have offices, some have hotlines where girls can call, and so I would really love for us to creating such environments for men. Can even be dialogues. Sometimes men don't need much; they just need someone that they can trust with their stories of pain, and someone that they know that it's safe to talk about their issues with. And that's the reason why you see a lot of men spending times, most of their times, in taverns and clubs. It's because when they are in those environments, no one judges them.
Yeah.
If I'm chilling with the gents, we talk about anything. We can talk about alcohol, we can talk about sex, we can talk about the fact that I was abused or I was even raped. It's okay. We laugh it off. We drink beer. We are fine. But what am I saying when I do that? I'm actually crying out for help. But am I crying out in the right environment? Am I going to seek help after? You understand? And most of us end up not getting the help that we want. So I think, and I'm not saying this should be like a women versus men kind of thing.
True.
Right? Because at the end of the day, we need to learn to exist in a healthy environment together as men and women. Shouldn't be a comparison of men are better than women, are men this or women this. Because all of us have different skill sets that we bring on the table to create a warm and healthy society. That's what we should be doing. But the reality of the matter is that our societies are broken, and men are leaders of families. So for us to repair the damage that's existing in the community, we need to start by repairing the men, and mentoring the young boys that are in our communities. Yeah.
There's a guest that we had here who was speaking the same language that you speak. He also speaks to men on a daily basis and women as well. But the one thing that he said was that he really wants that safe space for men. And I was saying to him that for me, I feel like if there's anything that we can do is to support you guys with all that we can, because it is pointless for us as women to go do our conferences and rescue each other and speak and be revived and be these CEOs of self-love multiplying, and then we go home to broken men. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm very much in support of initiatives that are for helping men, because at the end of the day, a healed man, a healed woman is a healed nation. You understand? So it can never be a competition of it's men versus women, it's this one versus that one. But if we have to group each other as women because we can relate, and men group themselves because they can relate, if at some point we have to come together and talk about things that affect all of us in households and all that stuff, then let's do that. And I'm really loving the rate at which men are speaking, and they're saying, listen, a pen is mightier than a sword. Let's sit down, let's talk, let's be open, let's work together. Because all is not lost. If we're working together, I have a brother, I have a father, then they get to benefit from the works that we do to try and heal, as individuals, as men and as women. So I think what you're doing is great. And you should just keep doing what you're doing. We have Kanye here, our beloved superwoman, who is always willing to assist anybody who wants to do anything. I remember last year when we did our second annual women's conference, there's a lady who was one of our speakers who came with her husband. When we finished the conference, the guy came to me and he said, listen, we need the exact same thing, but for men. Like the exact same thing. Don't change anything. Because here you're not saying men are trash. You're not talking bad about men. You are building each other up. We need the same thing for women. So I said to him, listen, anybody who is willing, anybody who is ready, I'm behind you all the way. And if it means that we need to support one another so that we can become a better nation, then let's do that, you know? So I just have one question before we wrap up. Do you help individuals, or like, do you do individual consultations? Do people have to reach out to you individually, or how does it work?
So I'm full-time employed currently, right? But I do have one-on-one sessions with either parents and their sons.
Okay.
Sometimes it's men that reach out to me directly to say, I need help. Can we have a one-on-one?
Okay.
And then we arrange. But what I also do on a bigger scale is to host workshops with young men where we become raw about issues at the table, you know. And sometimes it's okay because in many cases, I see men crying in those sessions. But that means that something is coming out.
Yeah.
And the more we have these kinds of sessions, in the next session, they won't cry. They'll be okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then they look for ways to replace that pain, you know, look for something positive. So I do those workshops as well. I also do camps for
We do
young
that
men
as well.
again and women and the youth at large. Just to also touch on other issues around mental health, you know, hygiene, how to take care of yourself and emotions and all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're doing a great job. I hope those around you or those who are seeing what you're doing can tell you that you're doing an amazing job, because you're doing a great job. I was not even aware of some of the things that you do, but I can tell you now from experience as well, because I do the same thing, that one life changed is an entire generation, you know, that is changed.
100%.
You understand? And on social media, how can people get a hold of you?
On social media, on Instagram, I am at Mukari Tiyiselani.
Okay.
And then on Facebook, it's Tiyiselani Mukari. I'm not on Twitter.
Okay.
I feel like it's toxic there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, people can search me on the socials for
Okay.
collaborations and other things.
Okay. Man, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining in. And I would like to send a special shout out to Hydro Quench for sponsoring. Is it Hydro Quench? It's Hydro Quench, ne? Ish. A big shout out to Hydro Quench for sponsoring us with water. You know, this beautiful water, this tasty water. Guys, this water tastes like healing, okay? Because the conversations are flowing and the healing is just flowing in this place. So a big shout out to them for partnering with us for this podcast and our events and our book launches and everything in between. And a big shout out to E2 Hair Studio for making sure that, listen, I look like the princess that I think that I am. A big shout out to Crown Lioness for crowning me like the lioness that I think that I am, and making sure that I always look beautiful. And most importantly, a big shout out to Scent Studios that are going to have to literally drag us out of here with a TLP, because we are not going anywhere. With that being said, thank you so much. God bless you. Mwah. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, sis.